Coming up, I'm going to be sharing my top 5 things that I think Disney Plus needs to improve. But before we go any further, make sure you do hit that subscribe button to keep up with the latest Disney Plus news. So it's been 5 years since Disney Plus originally launched back in the Netherlands, before then launching in the US in November of 2019. And since then, it's gone on to release in over 100 countries around the world. And during that time, we have seen Disney Plus go through many changes. It's been evolving. It's been constantly changing. When it launched with its 5 core brands, that was the main thing. It was generally just about being for sort of families and for children. But since then, we've seen it slowly evolve. We saw the introduction of the Star Hub, and then we saw Hulu on Disney Plus, and then later this year we'll be getting a new ESPN hub launching in the US. And yeah, we're just seeing Disney Plus going through some major changes. However, things are not perfect. There are many things that Disney Plus has been doing, and they've been doing the same thing for many years, and they still haven't improved it. And it's that kind of thing that I wanted to jump in and share my thoughts on what they need to do. So up first, and I think this one is the first one I just have to say really is, they have to sort out Hulu. This whole Hulu situation in the US has been a huge albatross around the neck of Disney, because they've got these 2 competing streaming services, and this has diverted their attention. And this has actually also ended up having an implication on us around the world. So obviously outside of the US, we had the Star Hub introduced, which had all the general entertainment content, had all the Hulu stuff in there, except for the licensed bits and pieces. But generally, it was a huge success, boosted up the engagement rate, made more stuff available, and generally, it was such a success. There's a reason why every other country has it except for the US, and that is, again, Hulu. Now, Disney are just trying to finalise, as of time recording, the final purchase of 33% stake from Comcast. Once that's done, Disney can do some things. So I definitely feel from Disney Plus, we need for them to unify Disney Plus and Hulu together. This will have multiple impacts on it. First off, it will save Disney money. They can save money on marketing. They can save money on sort of infrastructure, technology. They can also reduce the amount of content they're creating and generally just create a single platform, much easier to advertise. It will allow them more ability to compete with Netflix and Amazon, etc., things like that, because you've got one platform, one price. They can simplify the tiers a little bit as well, kind of bring that in line with how we see it internationally with like ads, and then there's also like a premium version without ads. And I think there's these different kind of things that they need to do. The simple thing is the addition of Hulu content into Disney Plus, like it is internationally, will just allow it to become a full platform. At the minute, it is so messy of like what's on Disney Plus in the US, what's on the Hulu part of it, what has been shared, what hasn't. We've got the news bits, but not all the news bits, and then they got this, that one, and it's just messy, and it's unnecessary complications. And the simple truth is, if they can merge it together, get that one price point, it will then be a proper streaming service that competes with, as I said, other streaming platforms. I think this is just a huge thing that I just had to say first. I'm also doing another video later this week where I'll go into much more depth on what to do with Hulu. But yeah, that was definitely for me was the number one issue that they need to deal with. For my second thing that they need to improve is originals. So we have seen Disney release a lot of originals over the years. We've seen fantastic shows like WandaVision and Mandalorian. We've seen films. But there's very little doubt that the Disney Plus original thing has drastically reduced as we are now in 2024. The way we're seeing lots of stuff being released. We then saw a massive clear out with loads of things being removed like Willow and Big Shot. And then now we are just getting a lot less. Very noticeable that we're kind of only really getting 1 or 2 a month. There's just a lot less stuff. Now, I don't think it was a bad idea for them to trim out and get rid of a lot of the generic, vanilla, easy stuff that just nobody was watching. It was costing them money, and it was just like churning out stuff that just fill the platform up, which people weren't checking out. And I think that's the key thing. They were the bakery shows and these kind of things. People weren't watching it. It just wasn't good enough. And that's the key thing. The triple simple system was that Hulu had all of the general entertainment stuff, and therefore the Disney Plus originals were kind of lacking when compared to it. Now, internationally, things are a little bit different with the originals, because we are constantly getting new originals all the time. So this is more of like that Disney Plus side of things, where when you say like a Disney Plus original, nearly everything being released internationally now is pretty much a Star original or a Hulu original if it was in the US. The branding of Disney Plus originals, we've just seen a lot less. They are making less, but I still think they need big original shows and stuff to pull people in. They've had some success with Percy Jackson. They've also had some success with Goosebumps, both of which are established franchises, books that people know. But otherwise than that, like, try and think of a big show that has branched out from Disney Plus and caught that attention. Very few have. They've just, if you discount all the Marvel and the Star Wars stuff, the Disney aspect, these big shows, they're not able to kind of reach in and get that clicking thing going. Audiences want something that's good, and sort of mediocre just doesn't work now. And a lot of those big shows that they released just did not click with bigger audiences. And it just feels like they've completely pulled back on them. We're hardly hearing about any shows. And now it almost feels like Disney Plus originals, we're getting a few a year. And, they're stretching them out. But eventually when they merge, obviously with Hulu and stuff, it will clarify that, and we'll still be getting originals. But Disney Plus originals, just very, very lacking right now. But what do you think? Do you think they need to do more? What kind of thing would you like them to do? Love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. For my third thing, it is the Disney Plus homepage. Now, let's be honest, it is a rather boring homepage. It is just row after row after row of rectangles. And it hasn't really changed in 5 years. And let's just say, it could do with a bit of a refresh. I thought the launch of Hulu on Disney Plus was going to refresh things. We're starting to see a few little changes. They sometimes put some things in, like recently with the live channels in the US, it kind of breaks it up. But even that's a bit messy. They haven't updated the collections for ages. They've not changed the avatars. It's all just exactly the same. And sometimes you can say, don't fix that isn't broken. And there are aspects to it that, it does work and it's functional and you don't necessarily need to keep playing with it. But it does feel like the whole platform has just been on just pause in terms of any development, any big changes, moving stuff around, making it look a little bit different. And that is sometimes a little bit disappointing. But also more importantly, and this is something that Disney CEO Bob Iger spoke about, is that they need to get a little bit better with their technology. And more importantly, we need some kind of algorithm on that front page to personalize what you see. Because you log in and pretty much everyone gets to see almost the exact same front page. Now, if you were on YouTube or on Netflix, if you logged in on my profile, you're going to see a very different homepage to, what you might see or what your family might see, etc. And that is because of the personalization and the algorithm. It looks at what you've been watching, what you've been liking, etc., how long you've been watching, and changes it. I think Disney Plus really needs to start leaning in on having a more curated front page where it's personalized a little bit to you. Sometimes you see some random things where it's like, you enjoyed watching The Walking Dead. Would you like to watch Bluey? It's like, there's no connection. It's just, seems to be just randomly pulling things along. Or goes, oh, you like watching, The Walking Dead. And then literally just give you like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse as something else to watch. And it's just like, this is just rubbish. This is just not good enough. And they desperately need to upgrade the system and make it look better. And also, more importantly, it's like for it to realize, like, what are you watching? If you're rewatching shows and rewatching them over and over, you might want to put them there. Highlight shows that you aren't watching, movies that you're not watching. But also, more importantly, take stuff away that you have seen. So if I've watched an entire series, what's the point in advertising it to me? I mean, yeah, you could say I might go back and rewatch it. But if my history just never shows I ever go back to rewatch a show, why keep recommending the same originals? Now, some of the stuff on the front page, you can keep, like what's new and, the big originals and, if there's a Halloween, you can still have a curated list that they put out to everyone. But just that whole front page just needs a massive reorganization. The whole, I think, the app just could do with a bit of a lick of paint, some freshness, a little bit more change around, and maybe, but I've said this before with the Hulu stuff and nothing really changed, and just giving all just a bit of a lick of paint. Let's change things up a bit, improve some stuff, make things better. They've got they've had that information. Really like to see what they would do with this. But let me know, have you got any suggestions for what they should do with the homepage and Disney Plus as a whole? Love to hear your thoughts on that as well. So for my fourth problem with Disney Plus that they need to fix is next day episodes. So this is something primarily in the US, though I have started seeing them starting to use this system in Canada now. So what they tend to do is a new show like Grey's Anatomy or Old Man will debut on a linear channel, and then the next day it becomes available on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus, and sometimes as well Disney Plus. And this whole thing of like next day, so they'll say, like, you know, you'll have a big promotional poster and things like that, and it'll have a date on it, and then it says next day on Hulu. And I just feel like this is something like, here we are 5+ years later from the launch of Disney Plus. Can we just drop this? Can we get past this? Can we just drop the idea of doing next day episodes and just make them out available at the same time? If you're putting a new episode of Grey's Anatomy out on ABC at 8 o'clock at night, put it out on Disney Plus and Hulu at the same time. Do that. They can do it for the Marvel and the Star Wars shows, so they can do it. The technology's there and they can show that they can do this stuff. I just feel like this is just something that is a legacy part of linear television that needs to be abandoned. You know, with them like making new contracts with cable companies and stuff, it's just like, it feels like linear still has the priority. And now, let's be honest, streaming is now much more popular than linear. And I'm not necessarily saying one should take precedent over the other. I'm just saying treat them the same. So if you are looking forward to watching the new episode of Dr. Odyssey, they're both available to you if you're a linear or a streaming platform at the same time. Now, it also would make advertising up easier because you can just put the day on it and you can stop using this whole thing of next day on. I just feel like it's something that all these years later of like, why are they still so obsessed with this idea that streaming is the next day? Why is, because it gets treated then, the minute you say that, it makes streaming become the second place. It's not where the big stuff goes. And then, I don't know, it just feels to me like something that just seems outdated and isn't necessary anymore, and bugs me, just annoys me. But nevertheless, let me know what you think of this in the comments below. For my fifth and final pick for problems that needs to be fixed on Disney Plus, and it's kind of interconnected with the last one, global releases. So as an international audience, we get kind of quite often screwed over. So how this is, for example, The Old Man, a brand new second season has just started dropping in the US, but here in the UK and in the rest of Europe, we have to wait until November until we get the entire season at once. So why do we have to wait? I understand American pretty well. I've been going to do pretty well with that, but no, I can't see it at the same time. So why can't we have shows? They're starting to do it more and more. There are stuff coming in. And Marvel and Star Wars and so on have been able to show that they can make a show and put it out globally at the same time. But it definitely feels, again, like the legacy media studios, ABC, 20th Television, Disney Channel, Nat Geo, etc., are still very much in the line of linear is important and it's the most important and streaming comes second. Whereas like now, treat it equally. And therefore we have to, you know, they have to start thinking themselves as a global platform rather than US first and then we all get the scraps afterwards. You know, you're never going to be able to compete with Netflix and Amazon while they still have this idea that America's system comes first and the linear system, that's what's holding Disney Plus back. Is this legacy media. There is a lot of advantages of the legacy stuff. And from the linear side, it gives a lot of extra information, lots of extra shows, lots of just great back catalogue. But they're also too scared to make those little changes that are needed. So if you've got a brand new episode of Grey's Anatomy coming out, it should be available globally, or it's cheaper and easier to make than a Star Wars episode, but they've got to up what they're doing. You know, with them reducing the amount of shows they're making now, it would have been easier. That's the other key thing that they need to do with these global releases. Dubbing and subtitles. I got a lot of friends in Europe and stuff that get really frustrated with a lot of the shows coming out now, without dubbing and just sometimes not even enough subtitles. That is default. It's a global platform. This stuff should be organised way beforehand. We're 5 years on. They might say about the money and all the rest of it. And I'll be honest, it's like tough. You want to be a global platform. You want to have your program out there. You want to put it out there. You got to get past this stuff. I mean, obviously they can use like AI and stuff to do some of the subtitles. Not perfect. You know, you really should be kind of doing it. But I really kind of cannot understand how having someone go through the scripts and going through and doing all this stuff is not now a priority. If you're having a system in a country, it should at least be subtitled, and dubbing is ideally what they need to be doing, especially for the big shows. But it just feels like, again, they cut back, looked at it and go, oh, we don't really need to spend money on that. And it's like, you know, it's needed, or at least have more languages than they're doing. Again, they're never going to be able to compete on a global scale. And like in some ways, sometimes Bob Iger's talked about, oh, you know, we're kind of scaling back in some countries. And okay, you know, in some countries it makes sense, but there's still some, you know, major languages that they could have globally. And I think, again, this whole excuse trying to save money, like, do you want this thing to kind of become the next version, is, you know, get this big thing? You got to do it properly, and kind of scaling back this stuff is really annoying. And also, it would save on some of the publicity. So if you're putting out a trailer for a new series, everyone gets it on the same day. Keep it simple. Now, I'm not so keen on this whole like prime time release date in the US, because what that does is it changes like the release date. So like if it comes out at 6 o'clock in LA, it's actually the next day. So that's a little bit confusing and stuff that needs, I do prefer things when it launches at midnight in LA, and then pretty much in the whole world all gets it at the same day then. But, and also as well, it's like missing out on the conversation, you know, that whole aspect, and things can't be talked about properly because people are all over in different places on shows. Like The Old Man, I'm trying to desperately avoid, you know, getting in on any conversations, looking up about anything about it, because I don't want it to be spoiled. And that is obviously a problem when they don't do global releases. And they need to do it as well with international releases, doing it the opposite way around. So if they've got a new Korean show or a Japanese anime or European show, Latin American, etc., global. You know, that's kind of the thing. And I get that dubbing is a lot more expensive, but everything should at least be subtitled. That's definitely something that needs to be done. But nevertheless, those are my top 5 things that I think Disney Plus needs to improve. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think they should do. Let me know them in the comments below. Go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe, and I shall see you guys soon. Laters.